What a fight, what a fight. And the fight I'm speaking about is a fight that I just witnessed live between Naoya Inoue of Yokohama, Japan, defending his WBO Super Flyweight Championship of the World against Karoon Jarupianlerd of Thailand, aka Petchbarngborn Kokietgym. Of course, the fighters from Thailand, they tend to take on the name of either their gym or their sponsor, basically whoever sets them up oftentimes. Birth name, however, Karoon Jarupianlerd. And he gave Naoya Inoue a hell of a fight. Early on, Inoue was trying to box as he tends to do, a little bit at a mid-range. Tries to set punches up, throw power shots especially. He'll throw a jab a little bit here and there. Was trying to box Jarupianlerd at mid-range. Landed a lot of power shots on him, but Jarupianlerd was not going anywhere. He was proving himself to be just one of these tough veterans from Thailand, a guy that's came into this fight at 38-7-1 with 18 knockouts. He's now 38-8-1 with 18 knockouts. Of course, now Inoue coming into the fight at 10-0 with 8 knockouts and leaving at 11-0 with 9 knockouts. And Jarupianlerd was looking to not be that ninth victim. Not at all. He showed himself to be just a dangerous fighter, a guy with a hell of a chin, a guy that kept his guard high, so he was at least partially blocking or making it so that the steam on Inoue's punches wasn't coming through completely. He couldn't get full power, full leverage, full cleanliness on the shot that he was landing. And Jarupianlerd just proved to be just a difficult opponent. He would mock Naoya Inoue. He would taunt him after Inoue would land his best shots. And after the first few rounds, Inoue, it seemed like he was getting a little bit frustrated. Jarupianlerd landed a few low blows here and there, with that forced kind of Inoue to turn to the ref, come on, are you gonna do something? The ref didn't do anything, and Jarupianlerd immediately pounced on the opportunity to get a few free shots on Inoue a couple of times. That happened. It's protect yourself at all times. Inoue realized that he wasn't gonna get any favors from the ref. He realized he was in with a tough opponent that that wasn't gonna take it lying down. He wasn't just gonna roll over and fall down for Inoue. So Inoue went to war. He went on the inside, started going to war, trying to break him down to the body. A number of left hooks to the body, as well as just good mix-ups between the left hook and onto the body, the left hook upstairs, right hand upstairs. A lot of good right uppercuts out of the shoulder roll Philly shell position. And just on the inside, eventually, Jarupianlerd was able to pretty much go blow for blow with him to a certain degree. He was able to land a fair few shots in spite of the fact that Inoue was overwhelming him. He was outworking him and he was outlanding him. He was outlanding him cleanly as well. But Jarupianlerd just wasn't going anywhere. He was just making it a physically tough fight for Inoue. He was the guy that was bullying him, trying to just muscle him around. And it wasn't until I'd say about the 7th round or the 8th round where Inoue kind of took the hint. And instead of trying to go inside or stay at mid-range so much, with his feet planted, he started dancing around. He got up on his toes, started shooting the jab out, shot double jabs, triple jabs, would throw a double jab, and then, kind of hop around and then throw another double jab. He would kind of stagger his jab combos, and then he would throw power shots behind those jabs, but the jab would be the paramount thing that he was able to do. And it seemed like once he started utilizing his long-range skills, his better timing, his superior agility and athleticism to his advantage, the fight became that just way easier on him. It just became way easier. When Jarupianlerd was able to kind of stand toe-to-toe on the inside or at mid-range with him, Jarupianlerd, in spite of the fact that he was losing pretty much every round on my scorecard, was still giving him trouble. He was letting Inoue know that he was in a fight, with a tough, big guy that wasn't just going to get blown out of him. Blown out of there in 2 rounds, the way that, say, Narvaez did. And Inoue adjusted. He adjusted, and what he adjusted to wasn't quite working as well as he had hoped, so he adjusted to something else. That's the way you do it. He showed a multitude of skills in this fight, and he showed exactly why I rate him so highly, why I rate him, pound for pound the way I do. I rate him pound for pound top 5. He's just an impressive fighter. He's got a wide variety of skills, and he showcases those skills time in and time out against top opposition. Kokietgym here, Petchbarngborn, was the number 1 contender. He was the top contender for his belt. Basically, Inoue was fighting the mandatory before the mandatory became the mandatory. He was trying to get a guy out of the way before the WBO ever ordered another mandatory, because his last 2 opponents were both mandatories. So now he basically frees himself up for the rest of this year and pretty much all of 2017 to potentially, fight the bigger names, fight the Roman Gonzalez's of the world, the Juan Francisco Estradas of the world, and so on and so forth. But, I mean, getting back into the round by round of things, though, once he got into the 8th round, he started hopping around on his toes, sticking and moving. Kokietgym just didn't know what to do. From the 8th round going into the 9th round, and the 9th round going into the 10th round, he looked frustrated, he looked flustered, he looked tired. His corner was rubbing his head like he had a headache, and it was just a matter of time before Inoue finally dropped him, which he did finally in the 10th round. Hit him with a number of shots. He probably landed about 20 unanswered shots against Kokietgym before he finally landed a 1-2, and then finally another right cross after the left jab first right cross. And just crumbled Kokietgym to the ground. And the thing is, Kokietgym had taken so many shots up until that point. It was one of those cases where as soon as he touched the canvas, because it's like he just desperately did not want to get knocked down. It was one of those cases where once he was knocked down, there was no getting back up for him. And that's pretty much the way it was. The ref finally called a halt to it as he, got up and staggered like almost into the ropes. The ref pretty much had to hold him up to keep him standing. And it was just a fantastic victory for Inoue. And I think probably one of the best fights to watch for Inoue. If you really want to see the full display of Naoya Inoue's skill set, I mean, and against a tough opponent too. He boxed him at mid range at first, was doing really good, was winning the rounds, but he wasn't having quite as much success as he had hoped. So he got on the inside, tried to knock him out, tried to bang him out of there with rough, hard body shots, fully leveraged shots, shots where he was really, getting on his heels, getting his like all the leverage he could possibly get into the shot. That wasn't working because it's like Jarupianlerd could kind of brace for the shots. He would taunt him, he would smile at him, he would, nod his head at him and say like, yeah, hit me again, hit me some more, trying to kind of catch Inoue in the exchanges. And then finally, once Inoue got up on his toes, started sticking and moving, started, floating like a butterfly and stinging like a bee, like EJ said, like EJ Boxing Live, who I called this fight a little bit with on his channel with, of course, check out his channel for our commentary of it. Once he got on his toes, started sticking and moving, using his agility and his fancy footwork, made it easier on himself, and he just started catching Jarupianlerd with every shot he threw. Just caught him flush with the jabs, flush with triple jabs, double jabs, and the jabs were landing right hands. He's got excellent power in both of his hands. He's got a big right hand, big left hook, and big left jab. The jabs, like I said, they land like right hands. They land like an Eric Morales jab or like a Jermaine Taylor jab. They snap a guy's head back, and they really let him know that they're dealing with a heavy hitter in there. But Inoue just did a fantastic job. This was very much needed experience because, one of my critiques in the past with regard to Inoue, for some of the people that have been, I think, jumping the gun and saying that Inoue could, beat Roman Gonzalez and Juan Francisco Estrada and so on and so forth, is the fact that he had, up until this year, he had really yet to do hard late rounds against tough, top-level opposition. And now, his last fight against David Carmona, where he did a full 12, hurt Carmona a couple times, was never able to finish him, though. And now a strong, hard 10 versus Karoon Jarupianlerd. He has a lot more experience than he did before. He realizes now that he can't just go in there and blaze through somebody in a few rounds or in a couple rounds. It's not like the first shot he's going to hit a guy with, they're just going to fold. So, with the experience that he's had in his last couple of fights, of course, going even all the way back to the experience that he had against Ryuichi Taguchi, the current WBA light flyweight champion, a former foe of his who went 10 rounds with him, 10 more technically skillful rounds, as opposed to the real gritty, rough rounds that he's had against Jarupianlerd and Carmona. I think Inoue is ready for just about anybody, man. Just really, really impressive stuff from him. I think he makes for excellent fights against any of the other champions. Of course, as I've recently done videos on, Luis Concepcion just dethroned Kohei Kono for the WBA. Next week we got Roman Gonzalez versus Carlos Cuadras for Cuadras' WBC. And then, of course, we also had yesterday Joe Nakas taking out McJoe Arroyo with a unanimous decision to take the IBF Super Flyweight title off of his hands. So all these guys pretty much have their mandatories out of the way. We can mix and match them in terms of unification. And, if the likes of Juan Francisco Estrada want to move up, or like a Donny Nietes want to move up, if Kazuto Ioka wants to move up, anybody pretty much that's out there. Zolani Tete, for instance, he was saying that he didn't want to fight. He didn't want to go up to 122 to fight Ricky. Now, he was saying that he could still make 115. Well, hey, if he wants to go back down to 115, there's plenty of fighters really ready and willing to, make him put up or shut up, because the super flyweight division is heating up. Just excellent fighters all the way around. And I mean, Inoue's been showing incredible skills. Like Inoue versus Tete, I think would be an incredible fight. Just an incredible clash of styles. I think Inoue versus anybody though. Inoue is just a must-see fighter, must-see TV. He has a skill set somewhat similar to like maybe somewhere in between a Floyd Mayweather and a Roy Jones, but he has the mentality. He has that fire and that kind of that egotistical like rage of like Eric Morales, where he kind of gets offended at you if you're not really getting hurt by his punches. He wants to hurt you. He wants to do damage to you. He wants to like look at you and be like, yeah, I'm the man. You like I'm the man and you going down. He wants to do that. He wants to hurt these guys in the ring, do damage to them. If they want to taunt him, he'll taunt right back with them. He's just a fun fighter to watch. Did an excellent job here. And I really, really hope that they bring him stateside and they get him into these matchups that I've been talking about. Him versus the Gonzalez versus Cuadras winner, him versus Estrada especially. I think if Cuadras beats Gonzalez, Cuadras versus Inoue is the fight to be made. If Gonzalez beats Cuadras, Gonzalez versus Inoue is the fight to be made. I mean, and then the other fight really to be made is Estrada. Following those two, or those three really, I would say Tete would be a excellent fight to be made, and then following them, of course, Kazuto Ioka. I think he makes 112 pretty easily. He's not a very big guy, and I think 115 would be a step too far from him, especially against somebody like Inoue. But, Kazuto Ioka brings home big money. Inoue brings big money, both in Japan. Both bring the serious cash. They could both potentially make 7 figures for that fight. So I could even potentially see something like that going down. But, I mean, regardless of which way it happens, I mean, all the names that I've mentioned pretty much are excellent names for Inoue. Even Sisake Zorongfasai, the guy that Cuadras beat to get his title, to get the WBC, the former WBC Super Flyweight champion, Zorongfasai, a.k.a. Wisakselu Wangek. Another great fight, another great opponent for Inoue, a guy that could punch just like Inoue could punch. So, see him potentially, may get his chin checked, may get his chin tested. However, he has taken some flush shots from some of these guys, and I have yet to really see Inoue like really wobbled, rocked, stunned, momentarily stunned or anything like that. So it seems like he's pretty much got all the tools. He's got all the tools in the tool chest. He just needs to be a little bit more measured in how he uses them, and when he really brings that fire out of himself. Because trying to knock some of these guys' heads off in the first round, can actually backfire against you, which he saw to a certain degree both in both of his last 2 fights, against Carmona and against Jarupianlerd. Both of them trying to be much tougher opponents than he expected. But once he switched it up and he shifted into a different gear, switched into a different style, so gave his opponents a different look, it all came together. Instead of looking for the knockout coming up empty, he let the knockout come to him, and it eventually came, and he got it. He got it done, put Jarupianlerd on the canvas, got the knockout, got the stoppage, and just did it in a very fun to watch way, a very impressive manner. And I mean, I'm really looking forward to see what's in the near future for him. I'm sure he'll probably be on one of these New Year's cards as they tend to do in Japan. Against who? Not exactly sure, but like I said, all the names that I mentioned be excellent fights. So let's see what it is. Let me see. I'm looking at my Twitter timeline right now too. And it looks like his promoter, Hideyuki Ohashi, Ohashi Promotions, is saying that they want to start negotiations of Inoue versus Chocolatito. So it looks like they're ready. Inoue versus Gonzalez, or hey, even if Cuadras beats Gonzalez, they're promoted by the same people. They're both promoted by Taken. So Taken Promotions, Ohashi Promotions, they could get it done with Inoue. It'll be lit, man. It'll be awesome. So that's it for this one, guys. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace.